Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a supernatural horror film, Jessabelle. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The first scene shows Jessie and her fiancé getting ready to move out to a new place together. After placing their things, they drive to the fiancé's place. He tries to tell Jessie about his weird dream, when suddenly, a truck crashes onto their car. The next scene shows Jessie lying down on a hospital bed while being operated on by the doctors. After the operation, a doctor comes to check up on Jessie and informs her about her legs. Jessie then asks the doctor about her baby, but the doctor only responds with an apology. 2 months later, Jessie tries to call her father to come over and pick her up from the hospital. Jessie and her father then head back home. When they arrive, the father heads out of the car and gets Jessie her wheelchair from the trunk. The father helps Jessie sit in the wheelchair before entering the house. He then leads Jessie to her mother's old bedroom, where Jessie is going to be staying. Jessie unpacks her things from a plastic bag, and she finds a picture of her and Preston, a high school friend of Jessie. Nighttime arrives. Jessie observes the outside from her window. Jessie attempts to sleep. Jessie turns around to the other side of the bed, and there she sees her own reflection in the mirror. Jessie gets disturbed by the mirror, so she unfolds the curtained bed and tries to sleep again. Jessie notices the excessive dripping of water from the faucet. Jessie then gets up, as she sees a silhouette from outside the thin curtain. She removes the curtain, but she sees nothing behind it. Morning comes by. Jessie goes around to look for her father. She does not find him anywhere, so she listens to the radio instead. The telephone suddenly rings, but Jessie realizes that the phone is upstairs, so she ignores it and instead heads to her room. Jessie finds a coin magnetized to the wall. She reaches out to grab it, but the coin suddenly falls and rolls under the bed. Jessie falls out of her wheelchair and finds a box under the bed. Inside the box is a vintage tape that's supposed to be for Jessabelle's 18th birthday. She goes to the living room to watch the tape on the television. She then sees her mother on the screen. Her mother greeted her a happy 18th birthday, and after that, her mother played tarot cards for Jessie. The mother then says that there is a presence with Jessie inside the house, and that it's a female. Lastly, the mother indicated that the presence wants Jessie out of the house. The film then ends. The father suddenly comes out of nowhere and surprises Jessie. He angrily asks where Jessie found the tape. He then breaks the tape and forfeits Jessie's wheelchair, leaving Jessie to sit on the chair. The father heads outside and dumps Jessie's wheelchair into the lake. The next scene shows Jessie waking up from a nightmare. She sees a silhouette riding a wheelchair and is coming towards her. She gets scared as the ghost arrives at her bedside. Jessie asks the ghost who she is. The ghost responds with her name. Morning arrives. Jessie wakes up to find a wheelchair beside her. The father then invites her to breakfast and apologizes for what happened yesterday as he was drunk. He points out that Jessie's wheelchair first belonged to her mother. The father asks if that was the only film Jessie found. Jessie lies and responds with a yes. After some time, the father leaves for work. Jessie looks across the lake and sees a glimmering light, but she ignores it and decides to watch another film from her mother. As Jessie watches the film, it shows her mother sharing something about her last reading of Jessie. The mother says that there are 2 female presences inside their house, but the interesting part is that they're both Jessabelle. Jessie learns that the ghost she has been seeing is herself. According to her mother, the inner demon of Jessie was created because Jessie blamed herself when the accident happened to her and her fiancé 2 months ago. The mother seemed to be sick in the film, but she still decided to give Jessie a reading. The mother plucked the card Death 2 times. The mother turns away since the outcome of Jessie's reading is horrible. The film stops playing and the television turns off. As Jessie wakes up from her nap, she gazes up at the ceiling. Jessie calls out to her dad, but suddenly she starts hallucinating and sees things fall from the upper floor. Without warning, a nurse suddenly enters the room to check up on Jessie's leg. After that, the nurse helps Jessie enter the bathtub and leaves Jessie alone for a while to fix the beddings. Suddenly, drips start to drop from the faucet and the surroundings start to darken. The door of the bathroom slowly closes off while Jessie is resting, with her eyes submerged inside the bathtub. A black liquid oozes in the water of the tub, and the ghost of Jessie suddenly appears. The ghost tries to reach Jessie's watch, but the ghost shouts at Jessie instead. The ghost starts to drown Jessie, but Jessie manages to get out of the tub and tries to crawl away from the ghost. She tries to open the door, but then her father and the nurse barge into the room to calm her down. The nurse helps Jessie sit on the bed until the father suddenly decides to kick the nurse out of the house. He confiscates the tapes from Jessie, but Jessie tries to stop her dad as it's the only memory she has of her mother. Still persistent, the father stubbornly attempts to burn the tapes inside a compartment. He tries turning the lighter on, but accidentally catches a fire and gets it close to the oils. The door to the compartment gets locked, resulting in him getting trapped inside. Jessie notices the fire and tries to get up, but she can't do anything because of her leg, so she has no choice but to watch her father die. At the father's funeral, Preston comes up to Jessie and asks how she's doing. After a while of talking, Jessie catches a glimpse of her father and suddenly collapses. The next scene shows Preston sleeping in the wheelchair beside Jessie's bed. Preston wakes up from a mysterious hand touching him. Jessie then wakes up. Preston gets up and gets ready to leave, but Jessie stops him. Preston brings Jessie to a restaurant as they talk about their lives. Jessie talks to Preston about the nightmares she's been having. They then go back to Jessie's house and Preston retrieves the tapes for her, so they both proceed to watch it. Preston suddenly stops the tapes from playing and confronts Jessie to stop her from watching the tapes. Preston gives his cell phone to Jessie and embraces her as he needs to leave. In the living room, while Jessie is reading a book, she gazes at the television. Jessie decides to watch the tapes again. The tape shows the life of her father and mother in the past. Jessie plays another tape and she sees her mother devastated by the reading of her cards. After the tape, the whiskey Jessie has been drinking gets suddenly thrown at the television. It gets smashed into pieces. Jessie tries to call Preston in panic, but she calls upon the wrong person. She hangs up the phone and looks outside the window. She sees a lit torch moving from a distance. A glass falls off, so Jessie turns her wheelchair around to check where the sound came from. Jessie looks up at the ceiling and unexpectedly gets dragged towards the mirror. There she sees the ghost's reflection. She walks near the mirror, causing it to shatter and fall off. She discovers another tape inside a hole where the mirror was once not shattered. She reaches out to grab the tape, but she quickly throws it off after. In the morning, Jessie decides to relax at the lake. She gazes at the distance and sees a glimpsing light. Preston arrives and checks up on her. As they're talking, Jessie notices that Preston can see the glimpsing lights too. They both ride a boat to get across the lake and check where the light is coming. They discover a voodoo with eyes shining. They also find hanging glass ornaments along the way. They stop at a nearby tree and discover a ritual-like space with a freshly killed rooster. Jessie notices something in the water, and so Preston decides to check it. It turns out it's only a doll. Preston unveils the vine-covered tombstone, which spells Jessabelle's name. Night comes. Preston digs up the graveyard with Jessabelle's tombstone on it, while Jessie is sitting on the boat watching Preston. Preston gets a small casket out of the land he dug up on. Inside the casket is a skeleton comparable to the size of a child. The next scene shows Jessie and the skeletal parts being checked upon. The sheriff then excuses himself and responds that they'll update Jessie on the DNA test of her and the skeleton. Preston brings Jessie to his place. They enter his house, and there they find Preston's wife lying on the couch. Preston's wife does not seem to like Jessie, and so she doesn't welcome her. The wife walks out, saying that she has to go to bed. Preston apologizes to Jessie for the attitude of his wife and helps Jessie get on the couch. The next day, Jessie and Preston head to Woodbury, expecting a lead to determine who the child was inside the casket. Both of them approach an old lady, someone Jessie's father and mother once knew. They attempt to make the old lady remember them. She remembers Preston, but when she hears Jessie's name, she mumbles something from another language. They didn't understand what the old lady said. The man who seems to accompany her approaches them and translates what she has said. Out of nowhere, the old lady suddenly pulls Jessie's hair, and so Preston quickly grabs Jessie away. They both leave. Inside the car, Preston and Jessie discuss what the old lady had said, specifically about the voodoo. They attempt to head to Moses' church. As they drive, they discover that the road they're supposed to enter is blocked by a tree trunk. Jessie points out something, and so Preston brings Jessie to where she pointed. They arrive at Moses' old church, an area where a ritual is being held. They discover a photo of Moses in the area, and the photo indicates his death and birthday. A bunch of armed men then suddenly arrive. Preston instantly tries to go to Jessie's side, but he ends up getting punched by one of the men. Jessie tries to stop them. The man lets them go. They return to Jessie's place. Preston insists that Jessie should stay at his mom's house, telling Jessie not to stay at her place anymore. Jessie quickly packs her stuff and hands it to Preston. Preston puts her belongings in his car and goes back inside to fetch Jessie. Preston carries Jessie inside the car, but when he enters the car, he sees it isn't Jessie he's been carrying all this time. It's Jessabelle, the ghost. Jessabelle attempts to kiss Preston, but he refuses, which angers Jessabelle. Jessabelle throws him out of the car. Jessabelle smashes Preston's head on the ground, resulting in him being unconscious. Meanwhile, while Jessie is inside the house, she notices the sudden closing of the door. Jessie heads outside to see an unconscious Preston lying on the ground. After some time, the medics arrive. The sheriff asks Jessie what happened. Jessie doesn't reply and gazes off into space, so the sheriff decides to speak instead. The sheriff informs Jessie that the result of the DNA is not done yet, although they do know that the skeleton is a female and that her death cause is probably murder. The sheriff leaves. Jessie tries calling out to Jessabelle. She continues calling out to Jessabelle, telling Jessabelle that she only wants to help her. The sheriff suddenly calls Jessie, informing her about Preston gaining consciousness. The sheriff also adds that the skeleton they dug up was black, meaning the body and Jessie are not related. In the middle of the call, the television suddenly turns on and Jesse gets surprised by it. Jesse grabs the film by the table and proceeds to watch it. Jesse then discovers that Jessabelle's father was Moses, and in the film, the mother attempted to suffocate Jesse as an infant, but didn't continue to do so. Jesse's tears run down her cheeks upon discovering what had happened. In the last part of the tape, the mother shot herself, ending the film. Jesse realizes that all the takes she watched wasn't for her, but for Jessabelle. Suddenly, a ghost of the mother appears behind Jesse. Jesse then turns around to face her mother. Jesse discovers that her father killed Jessabelle in the past because Jessabelle was born black and apparently he was not the father of Jessabelle. It turns out, after finding the affairs between his wife and Moses, the father murdered both Jessabelle and Moses and adopted a white Jesse to be his child in order to cover his own crime. Devastated, the mother committed suicide. Jesse's questions have been answered. The ones who did a voodoo ritual across their lake were the men from Moses' church. Obviously, through the ritual, the church helps preserve their souls after their death. Jesse asks her mother's ghost what she wants from her. The mother reaches her hand out to Jesse, and unexpectedly, the ghost of Moses also appears. Jesse then continues to ask what she can do for them, but they grab and tie Jesse down, saying that it's payback for her father's crimes. Jesse desperately cries out for help as both Moses and her mother try to take revenge against her. The mother crosses out blood on Jesse's forehead, indicating that they are performing some big ritual on Jesse. Soon after, she pushes Jesse's wheelchair outside towards the lake. Preston and the sheriff arrive, while Jesse continuously cries for help. Preston rushes to Jesse, but he only sees her pushing her own wheelchair towards the lake. Jesse falls to the bottom of the lake. She sees Jessabelle swimming toward her. Jessabelle retrieves the watch from Jesse's arm and kisses her forehead. After that, Jesse swims up and she manages to catch air. Preston quickly jumps into the lake to save her. Preston brings Jesse to the land, and then Jesse gives him a passionate kiss. Preston brings Jesse inside the house. The sheriff calls out to Jesse, asking her if she's okay. Jesse only responds that her name is Jessabelle, implying that the real Jesse has been drowned to death in the lake, while Jessabelle possesses her body and continues to live as a new Jesse. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.